So basically, now that you're retired and found Wikidata, maybe it's time to tell the students a bit about why I kind of asked you to talk to them and what we're going to talk about today. So Jane, I would say, besides the fact that you're one of the most prolific Wikidatans in the world, is one of the main contributors to a project called SOAP, in short, which is Summable Paintings, which I wanted Jane to tell you about. And it's one of the most amazing Wikidata projects that we have, and one of the biggest one, if not the biggest one. Well,
we
maybe
got a prize.
Yes, you got a prize for
Yeah.
it. And I think besides WikiCite and the whole, articles, metadata that is on Wikidata, SOAP is basically the biggest wiki project that we have, right, today.
I think it is. It might not be the biggest project in terms of people contributing, but it's definitely the biggest project in terms of people having been exposed to it, because it is so photogenic.
It is.
It's something. It's so easy to show, and there's nothing that gives an insight like showing paintings in categories, right? It's so much more effective than Commons. So I think the SOAP project has been that aha moment for a lot of people, even though they didn't become contributors to the project. That's the main contribution that project has given Wikidata.
I would say it's it's exactly right, and I would say it was a combination of one more thing, and that is you have been using tools with Wikidata, showcasing the community for the first time, I would say, what they can do. And it kind of helped make things visualized in such a way that they had impact, and people can suddenly get why this is important, like why this matters. And so this is what I wanted you to start with, telling the students about, so we can tell them a bit about what SOAP is, and you can show them what SOAP is and tell them a bit about the tools that we're using. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Awesome. So
yeah, I'm a little bit ashamed to admit that my biggest tool is still Excel. And I know you've taken a peek at my Excel sheets, and they're absolutely ghastly to see. But I do think that everybody has to have their tool of choice. And I know a lot of other people use Python or some programming language. And that's what's so wonderful about Magnus, right? Magnus has given us these tools that are easily parsable for everybody to work on in their own way. So what he enables me to collect out of Wikidata with Listeria lists enables me to create my own contributions. And I think everybody has those workflows, and the workflows are all individual.
yes, they are.
And it doesn't really matter how you accomplish it, as long as you understand how to take this tabular data and manipulate it in your own way. I think, obviously, just as we were talking about how you have a Wikipedia article with metadata in it. Let's say it's an article about a person. Well, then certain fields that will translate well to Wikidata are the kind of the typical kinds of fields that you would expect in a person database. So the birth date and the death date, etc. And those are the similar sort of things that you would have for any other type of Wikipedia page. But obviously those are the kinds of things that are hard to just take out of a wall of text. You need some sort of a tool to be able to pick them out. And that's where those tools of Magnus are wonderful, is that they can dish them up to you in this tabular form. And then from there, you can do your own checks or do your own sorting or categorizing. So yeah, the tools that I use are have
So
all.
wait, so before showing the tools, let's tell the students what SOAP is. I don't think they know.
Okay, SOAP is the sum of all paintings, and we are a Wikidata project, which is a very loose group of people. We're people. We're not a set of pages. We are represented by a set of talk pages on Wikidata, but the front page of it, let's say, is probably pretty out of date. I honestly can't even tell you the last time I actually visited that page. So I think that's true of any Wikimedia project, whether it's on Commons or Wikisource or Wikipedia. You create a project, right? And it sort of grows in a sort of an organic way. And, you know, people might tell you what they've changed and you're like, yeah, that looks okay, you know, leave it there. And then you come back in 5 years and you realize it's grown beyond anything that's logical to read. But we do have this page, and it has been translated into several languages. I have no idea whether the translations match the version that I see today. But yeah, I can go there and share my screen with you if you want to look at the page. Let's see, I linked to it, I think. Oh, here it is.
So first of all, we are now sharing the screen, your screen, the students.
Okay, so do you see the sum of all paintings?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Can you just click hide beneath? There's a message box. Can you click on hide? Yep, here. Yeah, awesome.
Okay. So this page has been translated into several languages, and it has a lot of very short explanations. Oh, here's an interesting paragraph about item structure. So these lines that are highlighted in pink, can you see these? I don't know if they're too small.
Okay. You can enlarge maybe the screen just a bit. And I'll just, yeah, that's great. And we can just tell the students that the whole project, before we delve into the properties, etc., and how we model stuff, the idea is very simple. We want to have every single painting ever painted in the world, right, on Wikidata. So that's what you've been trying to do.
Yeah, theoretically.
Theoretically.
Because when it comes down to it, if I would paint something, you know, it's probably not notable enough for Wikidata. Mm-hmm. So we want every notable painting, right?
Yes.
And you have to have some sort of threshold of notability, which we haven't really reached yet because Wikidata is still growing astronomically, but we started with these major collections, national collections. So I think nobody is going to dispute that if a painting is in a national collection, then it should probably be on Wikidata. Mm-hmm. So yes, we want every notable painting. But I say that, and yet I personally have uploaded thousands, literally, paintings from Sotheby's and Christie's that would probably not be notable enough for Wikipedia. Mm-hmm. But for me, they're necessary because they are in certain catalogs, or they were owned by certain people, or they have connections that I need. So, so yeah, that we want every painting, every notable painting in the world. And if you really want to see what we have a tiny, tiny subset. Tiny subset. So this is my user page on Wikidata, and I put in a lot of links here. but let's say like this one is a good one. Let's see. Here, the map of paintings per collection. So these are the collections. You've seen Sparkle and queries, right? So that.
No, they haven't, but they will.
Okay. Okay. So this is just clicking you through to a query that gives you the map of collections that have paintings, I guess, in the world. And when I first put this on my user page, this Europe was not all red. There was still some white in it. The way in America, you can clearly see where the Rocky Mountains are and where the flyover states are. But clearly, we have nothing in Africa. I mean, that's not to say that there are no museums in Africa. There are. We just don't have the geo-coordinates for them in Wikidata, right? So this is pulling, the query is pulling information about collections, and those are only collections that have geo-coordinates. So obviously private collections don't have geo-coordinates, right? So, but still it's showing you a very tiny subset of what's available in the world. So when we say we want all notable paintings, I mean, clearly we'd be busy for years at this rate. But it gives you a ballpark figure. This tells you something about the status where we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I don't know where I put that other thing. I just flipped through some of these till I find it again. Oh, here I am. No, let's go to these are creators, and this is a sub page. So this is creators, just a slash sub page of the Sum of All Paintings project. And the Sum of All Paintings project has all these explanatory paragraphs, including, I guess, some queries on it. But like I said, I haven't read it in a long time. And now we're back to here, which is telling you the minimum that we need. So if you want to write an article about some famous painting that you personally like, then hopefully your Wikipedia article will have the information that you could use to fill in these Wikidata statements. So these pink lines represent structured data about the painting. So a creator is the person who painted it. The inception is the year that it was painted. The inventory number is if it's in a collection, which some of them aren't. Some of them are in churches, or they're in private collections, or they were, they're owned by the state and they're in the state capital, or they're in some public place or something. The material used, I mean, usually it's oil paint, could be canvas or copper or panel or whatever. And the location. So the location might be the same as the collection, but sometimes it's not. So a lot of times the Rijksmuseum family of paintings are on view in some other small museum somewhere else in the Netherlands. And that's true of a lot of very large collections. So the location is not always the same as the collection. So this is it. This is basically it. And then from this minimum, there are lots more properties that have been modeled since this very humble beginnings. I mean, I think we're looking here at what we had in about 2015 or 2016. And this still remains the minimum. I mean, if you want to look at paintings by Rembrandt, then you at least have to have the Rembrandt field in there, or you're never going to find that painting back, right? And the same is true for if you're working on a particular museum, such as a national museum, and you want to do that collection, you're going to have the collection statement in there. That said, there are lots of problems that we have with the paintings as a group. I was discussing this idea of pages about Wikipedia pages about artists. Let's say a Wikipedia page about Rembrandt, and in every language there will be different paintings on that page. Well, when there are paintings on the page, you would assume that a painting that's important enough to be presented on the artist page, that should have a Wikidata item. And for Rembrandt, it probably does. But what becomes problematic is when those paintings are not clear from the context of the Wikipedia page which paintings they are. I mean, if it's a copy or, you know, whether it has an image or not. In some of these smaller Wikipedias, you know, there are lists of paintings without any pictures. It's really hard to figure out what they're talking about, especially if I don't speak the language. But that's where catalogs come in. Catalogs can be extremely useful. So if you have a monograph and the monograph is saying, you know, in an introductory text, you know, the masterpieces of this artist are considered to be X, Y, and Z, then it's much easier to try and figure out what these Wikipedias are trying to present. Because I think most Wikipedia pages are written in good faith, and you can assume that a lot of the information is correct. What I've found over the years is that in very large lists, some garbage does slip in from time to time. I don't think it's vandalism. I think it is people trying to sell stuff. But what you also see is that sometimes a Wikipedian is working from a book and wants to illustrate his article, and he doesn't have the actual painting, so he just picks some painting that looks like that painting. So you'll often see that the image doesn't actually match the metadata. I'm talking about Wikipedia. So I can't really work from Wikipedia when I work on artist lists on Wikidata. I always like to have the catalog. And if I don't have the actual catalog, then I won't even do the work, basically. But fortunately, I'm not the only one doing this stuff. There are people out there who have done catalogs, and there are lots of catalogs already on WikiCommons. So, you know, if I'm looking for something to do, I'll pick up one of those and I'll start adding them to Wikidata. And fortunately, I've done it enough with enough different types of paintings that now the people are actually doing it themselves, which is wonderful. I'm very happy about that. And if you keep scrolling down here, I think there's actually a list of completed catalogs. Oh yeah, here, so incomplete and completed catalogs. Yeah, this
Can we
is
take a look at just one, just to see an example of how it looks like?
Yeah, this top one is an interesting one. So this is a very famous exhibition, which I'd never heard of. Sandra was very impressed that I was willing to work on this because apparently it's quite a difficult one. And to me, it was just a catalog like any other. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And then it turned out it actually had Wikipedia pages, which I didn't even know. So this is an exhibition that took place in Belgium in 1902. And apparently it was groundbreaking because it was the first time that a lot of what they call Flemish primitives were brought together. So this is kind of really the point in time when the Hubert and Jan van Eyck's were pulled apart, and now we call everything a Jan van Eyck. And these artists that had not had names were given what they call not names. And this work had been brought in from everywhere in Europe. And it was a very important exhibition. And I realized it became important because for some reason after this exhibition, the art market just went crazy and people were buying this stuff. And then this was the stuff that the Nazis wanted. So this is all stuff that ended up in those salt mines and everything else. And what I did for this was I actually tracked down all these paintings. just because I'm a visually oriented person, and I was just curious. So I got the catalogs. There were 2 catalogs, one in English and one in French. And based on the entries, I was able to figure out which painting it was. And then I started collecting them. And now, fortunately, most of them are in very major museums, and they're very proud of their provenance. They're very proud to say it was in this exhibition. So it was a very easy one to do. So it's something like 250 or so paintings